microphone. It's been, I guess, 4 years since we lost Jordan McNair, a member then of the University of Maryland football team, passing away just a matter of weeks after an organized team event. And I can think of nothing more challenging than a parent having to bury their child. I don't know that anything else in life can be more of a challenge than that. Our next guest is an inspiration for what he's done when faced with that challenge. He's used it as a foundation for reducing the chances that anything like that will happen to somebody else's child. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring to the microphone Marty McNair. Marty, we appreciate it. And I appreciate that smile on your face, man.
Right.
I want to start with what kind of son, what kind of person was Jordan?
Thank you for having me. Really good to be in a room full of and people making an impact. Man, Jordan really was just, I get that question all the time, and he was just a great kid. He was you always think your child is special. Just a real kind of gentle giant type of guy. A man of very, very little words. But, really he was that type of guy. He had a smile once he walked in the room. I mean, everybody was touched, somehow. So just a really great kid that, man, we always knew he was special. However, we didn't know he was this special. Yeah. So, yeah, man, just a young man that every parent would want to have.
The old saying, Marty, is sometimes in life it's not about what happens to us, it's what we do about it.
Correct.
And I'm inspired by what you're doing about it. Talk to me how you got from that place to this place in the wake of what happened.
Yeah, so for us, the thing was, really we didn't start asking any questions beyond the two normal questions that every parent asks. Can he play, and why is it? And can our student athletes play, and why are they sitting on the bench? Right. So we didn't think to ask. Especially Jordan was highly recruited by every school in the nation. He was 6'5", 300 pounds, a size 16 shoes. So he was a lineman, or left tackle. I mean, he was a coach's dream. So at this point, when Jordan got injured, all of this was very, very new to us. We had no idea, and I'm using the term heat stroke loosely, but we didn't know what a heat stroke or heat-related injury was at that time. Basically, it was just kind of, hey, you had been out in the sun too long, obviously you got some shade and some water, and everything was right with the world. But we literally went from a healthy kid Tuesday morning to an emergency liver transplant Friday morning, with literally 85% of his liver being in necrosis. So, and him being within hours of his life, we didn't make a decision. So while we were in the hospital those 2 weeks, Tanya and I kept asking ourselves, Jordan's mom, basically, like, what did we miss? And that was really our big thing. Like, obviously we missed something. Was it during the recruiting process? What questions did we ask? And as a father, no matter what happens, it's always our fault on something that we could have did better to protect our child. And in that case, I always thought that I always prepared Jordan how to stand up for himself, how to defend himself, always be a leader, never a follower. Don't do drugs. Typical fatherly advice. However, one of the main things that I really didn't teach him was, from a young person's perspective, when he was a young student athlete, was like, listen to your body. If your body tells you to stop, stop. We raised a coachable guy, and a coachable kid basically is really a robot, because he's going to do whatever coach says. They're not going to speak out if they feel uncomfortable or anything like that. So that was like one of our immediate takeaways. When it came to the heat-related injuries aspect of it, we didn't know any of the statistics at that particular time while he was fighting for his life. So we had never heard of Marquise Medal. And he fell in Marquise Medal at Morgan State University, rest in peace. And a big honor to his family as well. But we didn't know any of these things at this time. And we didn't know out of all of the student athletes that had passed away at the NCAA level, much less the high school and the AAU level, we didn't know any stats. And one of the main things that when Jordan passed was, like, how do we get in front of this? Because this was Tanya and I's only son. So the grief of that can take you two ways. It can take you in a rabbit hole of despair, or you can turn this pain into purpose. And that's really the route that we took, just because I can't even imagine where I'd been at if we went, through door number one.
Let's talk about that purpose. Let's talk about the foundation. I think at its core is education, because as you alluded earlier, you didn't know the questions that you needed to ask. And I'm sure you're aware that you're not alone. There are a lot of parents who, to this day, are reticent to ask the pertinent questions. Talk to me about what's happened in the intervening 4 years in terms of elevating the knowledge level in the education gap.
I can say that for us, I'm still amazed at the work that we've done. Even when I look at it, it's like, wow, we did all that. I think the grief of the adrenaline of my grief really just kind of got us to dig into it. And, we've gotten 4 laws passed, which is outstanding in any state. Today I was just talking to some legislators in California on this last bill that we just got passed, because I think, this was our most impactful bill. And this was House Bill 836 that went into effect July the 1st. And as Chu just said before me, the United States Congress compromised of 21,000 high schools across the nation. They fall into 2 buckets: those that have resources versus those that don't have resources. And a lot of these injuries always happen in rural areas and urban areas where what do we lack of? Resources. So again, for us, it was really like about, initially we thought it was one thing. Our process was a very, very incremental, organic process. We thought it was all about the safety, the cold water tubs, and we donated hundreds of cold water tubs, literally from Alaska to Florida. The kids kept dying. Then we realized, like, wait a minute, it's about me speaking. And it's like, well, what's going to make anything I say stick after I leave? Nothing. Then we realized it's legislation. So we started on this legislation push, and we were getting bills passed, and we've had some success. Shout out to all of our legislative sponsors in the state, because we've been a really good example. But True made a very good point. A lot of times we're reactionary. We move reactionary, from a reactionary perspective. Our goal is to have people move from a preventively prepared perspective. We want people to be preventively prepared. You got to put these systems in place. So at that time, we realized legislation really is cool, but the main thing you have to yell from the top of the rafters that these bills are out here to protect your child, your child, your child, your child. We got 4 laws passed in the state of Maryland, 3 in the state, 1 in Baltimore City, and if you ask anybody what laws they are, they couldn't tell you. So this House bill, beyond the NIL bill, right? That was in Jordan's name. And this last bill that we got passed, so we went through a 3-step process. We thought it was safety equipment. Then we thought it was just us talking. Then we thought it was legislation. But kids keep dying. So one of the things that I realized, or what the common denominator is, in all of these deaths, these preventable deaths across the nation, is education. The education, because when you look at these types of injuries, and it's not just, you can't talk about heat-related injuries unless you talk about cardiac arrest, sickle cell, concussions, all these preventable injuries. But what the common denominator is always the emergency action plan. Either it wasn't practiced, they didn't have one. So our last bill, which is our most impactful bill to me, mandates that all public high school and middle schools have to practice their emergency action plans with the right safety equipment within arm's length or within minutes reach twice a year in the state of Maryland, at the beginning of every spring season, at the beginning of every fall season. So that's significant. And the interesting thing about these bills don't cost money. These bills save money from a risk mitigation perspective if everybody is properly trained. Because when you look at a lot of inner city schools, you have lack of resources where you may have the school resource officer doubling down as the football coach. You know what I mean? So at these times, these are the people that are out here. Everybody is not like some of the private schools, the McDonoughs, the Gilmans, the Mount St. Joe's, or the St. Paul's, where they have a certified athletic trainer on staff or a medical person on staff. So what about those that just have their hearts in the right place and they want to do what they have to do? So education is always the key, and the more educated that we are, to say for all our student athletes to be.
Marty, you have made a difference, bro. You've made a serious difference. And I think sometimes we don't feel as individuals that, what can I do? Is anybody going to listen to me? Do I really have a voice? And I think you personified that the answer to that is yeah. You as an individual have a voice if you coalesce, if you organize, and if you're committed to a cause.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Let's talk about whether or not we, as a collective, sometimes just too often just take things for granted. And we're not as involved as we should be in what is going on around us as a community, and more specifically, our young people. Are we too hands-off? Should we be more hands-on?
Well, I don't think that we truly identify our power as a community. Because somebody told me the other day, and I had to have this lady repeat it, she said, our superpower is our community. And I'm like, what'd you say? Say that again? She's like, our superpower is our community, is the community. Chu just said it. I mean, collectively, what we can do as a community. But again, I think for us, we, in our space, it's a matter of, oh, that's not going to happen to my child. And until it does happen, now it's, but again, we're telling you, if the right systems aren't in place, we're trying to do that preventive preparation again. And that's where I think that, you know, we can be somewhat removed from the actual process in a sense, because, you know, we're just so quick to, you know, and again, sports is social nutrition for us. Sports is a tool for a lot of us, especially in the social economic communities where it's low-hanging fruit. We can do so much more than play on Sundays or play on Saturdays. You know, like really, you know, we can do so much more than that. But community is our superpower, and I think that really, you know, we just really, as a community, really need to accept that.
Well, I think that as a community, we don't have to be in acceptance mode. We can be in proactive mode.
Totally.
And I think just looking at you, listening to you, is proof positive of that. Going to let you go on this. If anyone out there wants to contribute to the foundation or just in general contribute to the cause, how would they go about that?
So yeah, this is that time of the year. Giving Tuesday is in a couple of weeks. It's November 29th. And I think that really, you know, I ask everyone to, you know, my team gets mad if I don't ask for donations in a sense, you know. We got to keep these wheels spinning, you know what I mean? For sure. Yeah, we got to keep.
Don't be too proud to beg.
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, you know, we're doing the right things for the right reasons. And again, as I just mentioned, it's all about resources. You know, in our communities, this is what we don't do, right? A friend of mine told me, and I know that this is totally out of left field, but a friend of mine told me back in the day when they moved from Randallstown to, Park Heights to Randallstown, she used to come back to the community and read to, take all the little young girls from the community to the rec center and read to them on Saturdays. We do this instinctively, right? Somebody else will come in our community and now they do the same thing. Somebody else will come in our community, now they get funded for a mentor program, but we've been doing this instinctively all along. So we gotta ask for them because we are the grassroots subject matter experts. Nobody can come in our communities and do what we do or deliver the message or make the impact that we can make. So again, obviously, you know, we can't let people continue to come in and they're going to collect data and steal our data and all that. So at the end of the day, you know, we have to be very definitive in our ask. So again, yeah, I say, hey, if we need donations to the JordanMcNairFoundation.org. Please follow us there. You can make donations there. Giving Tuesday is 11/29. End of the year giving is coming up. You know, really, we look for a very, very impactful 2023. Because again, not only in our community, but again, you know, luckily we have a reach across the nation. And like Chu just said, it's a shame that a prophet has to be more popular in foreign territory than his own.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Marty McNair. Thank you very much, Marty. We appreciate you. We're going to step aside. We're going to take the time out. We'll be right back with more of the Grizzly Up Coaches Show.